Welcome, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Forgot to Save podcast, the twice-monthly gaming podcast where we go back and play the games we always wanted to, but never got a chance to with you, the listener. I'm Stone, and today I'm alone, like always. Mike is unable to join us this episode because of some scheduling conflict, but luckily, to finish out this month, I am still joined by our guests, Casey and Adam. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Now, guys, if you're not already listening on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, know that you can find us on any of those platforms. Now, we have had a little bit longer to play this game than our conventional playthroughs because we had to schedule the four of us, and obviously that didn't even work out to today, the final day to record this episode. So it's gotten in the way. But we all have played at least a little bit since our last playthrough, and I think we have a lot to talk about because this game provides no shortage of discussion. And luckily, we still have Adam here who has finished the game before and will still give us the perspective I think Mike would have.
I hope.
Yeah. So we can just jump into it. Now, first of all, I know somebody here hasn't finished the game.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Life came about a bit, but I got a little bit further. Do you want me to say where I got to now?
Yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm actually going to cut that for a second and put in the fact that that since this is a month-end discussion, we will be discussing spoilers. So now I'm going to splice in what he just said.
I got to where Sam turned and his brother had to shoot him.
Okay, great. Yeah, Casey. That's really cool. So I think that is a really, really big turning point in the story. Now, last time we were talking about Bill and his story and how we had kind of discovered a little bit extra that was there, and you kind of breezed through it because you weren't a fan of Bill. Do you think you found yourself going through and paying more attention to more minute details this time, or what was your experience after our last discussion?
I tried to. I'm not sure I picked up on a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how many more hours into it I got, but no, not really. To be honest, I'm here for the story, and that was kind of where my mind went. So I kind of rushed through the gameplay.
No, that's
I still found myself, dude. Not even trying. I found myself going through a little faster than I probably should have.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's faster than you should have because you experience it at your own pace, but I mean, it's totally fine that you weren't influenced by what we said. I was just really curious, but I mean, if you were like really gung ho about the story, I guess that's the most important part.
Yeah,
I would say
there was still something that drew you into it, and nobody's going to argue with you that this story is what keeps people drawn to this game. I think that's unanimous across everyone that plays it. There are people that don't like the gameplay and still push through this just for the story.
Yep, and I did, knowing I couldn't finish it due to work and all life, I did watch. They had made like a movie kind of thing out of it with all the cutscenes and some gameplay. So I did see the rest of the story.
Cool.
And it did not disappoint.
Cool. Yeah, and we will talk about the ending, but that is really cool that you still got to experience it in a way. Now, Adam, I'm assuming you finished again. Is that the case?
I did not finish again.
No.
Life has also been a little bit crazy for me. But I do, I have finished the game before,
Mm-hmm.
I guess as we mentioned in the previous podcast. I also went back and watched the remainder of what I didn't finish in probably the same video that Casey checked out on YouTube, just to refresh myself. I actually did remember a lot more about the game than I thought, but yeah. I believe I'm still I can talk about the game.
Right.
Phil Blue's shoes.
The reason reason I'm asking mainly is because Mike had also suggested to us to play the DLC that came with it.
Okay.
I forget the name of the DLC, but it focuses on Ellie's story in particular. I was curious if you guys went back
Left
and
Behind,
played
is it?
Left Behind, you're right. Yep.
Yeah.
You guys didn't go back and play it then, did you?
I have not. No. Do you have to finish the game to start the DLC?
No.
I don't believe so.
So you actually don't. It does fall actually in the middle of it. We're going to discuss spoilers here, but I believe, Casey, you might not have gotten to this point. But after you separate from Sam and his brother, was it Henry? I don't remember.
Henry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Sam and Henry. A little bit later, you are in, I believe it's a hotel, and you get attacked, and this person tackles Joel off of a balcony, and he lands on like a piece of rebar that goes through his torso, and like when you pull him off of it, he bleeds really heavily, and he goes almost comatose, it seems, until the winter. So Ellie is left to take care of him. Now you just flash toward when he is waking up, or around the time he's waking up, but the DLC takes place between that. So it's still a good 2 to 3, maybe to 4 hours until the end of the game.
That's pretty cool, because I remember that part in the movie thing I saw.
Yeah.
And the flash forward to that, so that'd be kind of cool to play through.
So I mean, you could even just, on YouTube look it up, because it's a few cutscenes. It's not super long. The DLC, I would say, was about 2 hours of content, and from my knowledge, there aren't a ton of collectibles. It's really just the story that you're going through. But I do want to take some time to talk about that. And I think because it falls kind of in the middle of it, I'll take a portion of time out in order to do so. But let's kind of go through the story as it occurs, because last time we left off with talking about Bill. And we each had, our own experience with him. I really want to talk then, because I think the game ebbs and flows a lot in terms of how exciting it is. And I think one of the peaks we have is our escape from Pittsburgh. Like running away from that bridge, finding Sam and Henry, like going through those snipers, and then that... when you're infiltrating their base to actually leave Pittsburgh alongside Sam and Henry, I think all that is really exciting, and I believe it's some of the most exciting parts of the games. Would you guys agree? Is that something that stood out to you? What were your thoughts there?
It was definitely action-packed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say, for me, I liked the sniper section, because it's like you kind of feel like everybody else's life is on the line, and it's in your hands. Like, if you make one mistake, somebody's going to die. And it's a different type of gameplay as far as, you're used to, by now, sneaking around, taking guys out one by one. And so, yeah, to actually have to be accurate and shoot people. I mean, there's some leniency, I guess, based on the difficulty you're on.
I can vouch for that.
So, yeah, okay, yeah. But, I don't know, I guess it just, like, that's the feeling... I don't know. That section was pretty cool, I think, for me. Good change to the gameplay for sure.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite parts of the gameplay. So yeah, I enjoyed that part.
And it's funny that you mentioned like how important it is that like other people's lives are in your hands, because we find out, as Casey mentioned, that despite your best efforts, Sam does end up bitten at that point and conceals it. So you don't know until later. But I do think that is cool, because it is a break from the standard gameplay that we were experiencing the whole time. Because for a while it was, here's the story element, sneak past this part, open conflict here. Story element, story element, sneak, open conflict. And it, repeat. And then we finally got to the sniper section where it was story element, sneak, but this time the open conflict was a little bit more unique than last time. And it also, like, it was kind of the one time where you got to relax and be like, okay, this time there is nothing sneaking up behind me. This time I'm just going to help out my team who is relying on me. And like you said, you do feel like there's a weight, like their lives are in your hands at that point.
Definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, near the end of that, of the section you were just describing too, like up until the bridge, that whole sequence kind of has you on edge, And I love that. I mean, Ellie has so much influence in this game, and I love that she's the one. Like, how many times has Ellie saved Joel's life in this game? And on that bridge, Ellie wanted to jump. Joel says no, you can't swim, and
Right.
Ellie says forget this, like we're going, and she just goes, and Joel's like she makes it easy for him. There's literally no other decision to make.
Right, and then you can see, like, on top of the fact that she can't swim, that tide is so strong, too.
Yeah, so right when Joel gets in, he's already getting swept away, and, like, Ellie is, like, she must just be getting thrown.
Yeah, like, if you don't know how to swim, then you don't know the procedure for getting out of that either. So that, like, you have the tenseness of this ginormous tank following you down, shooting at you through everything, breaking through barricades, there are explosions going by, and your last-ditch effort is like, I can't swim, but I'm going to go for it. Like, well, maybe that's a bad idea. And it's like, well, the other option is a tank.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
Like, you're like, okay, well, we're going to jump off, and Joel's going to be able to swim to shore, and it's fine. And then the second you hit the water, it's like, this is a riptide, and we're going to pull you under, and we're going to take you through sharp rocks. And I think somebody gets hit really quickly at one point, don't they? Like, by a rock?
I thought she did.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe. But from what I remember, that the next scene is like Joel's waking up and Ellie's already conscious though. So was it Joel that got hit?
I think they got hit like in the ribs or something. I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
But I remember
he got slammed into like a boulder in like a rock. But I thought she had got hit prior to that.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
The reason I'm asking is it really like emphasized how strong this current is, that even Joel, who we like see swimming and like even carrying Ellie around as he's swimming, is like hit up against it. So that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I always found Joel just acted like a father with her. Like, she would just rebel against him and he would be hard on her. But you just tell on the surface how much he cared for her by jumping in the water and trying to save her, and just, I don't know, just, you could tell that, you're pissing me off, kid, but I love you.
and we'll definitely talk about that more, because you can't talk about this game and not talk about the relationship. But the relationship I want to talk to right before that is because just moments before we actually have that scene, we were betrayed by Henry, and then we wash up on shore, and who's there waiting for us?
Henry.
So,
Mr. Henry.
I wasn't exactly expecting the betrayal from him, because I felt like, we had built this relationship with him despite Joel being so standoffish in the beginning. So I definitely know I had a reaction when I saw him wash up on shore, and I was pretty happy when Joel did too. But what were your thoughts, Casey? You specifically, because it's your first time playing. What did you think when you saw Henry and he was like, "No, it's all good. You would have done the same thing."
It's like, I wanted him hurt a little bit, maybe rough him up. Yeah, I'm glad Joel reacted the way he did at first. I'm also glad he calmed down, I think. But I like to see him get mad, because it was kind of crap. I was mad at him.
Let me ask the two of you. All right, you're in a situation where there's bullets flying at you, and you got to make a quick decision. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna? I feel like, what Henry. So the betrayal is that Henry and Sam left Joel and Ellie, right?
Right.
Like, these guys. I mean, they were in a tense situation, and it's like, do or die. Sorry, we gotta go.
Right.
And
so
if you're gonna like, how much do you value your life versus valuing a relationship with two people you just met, and I mean, you don't know, like, that's your brother standing next to you,
right?
And
Henry didn't care about his life. You could tell that it was all about Sam.
All about Sam. So I don't know.
My opinion, if that was me and my son or my daughter, I would have done the same thing.
So I think that's what's great about this game, is the fact that we can even have an argument about this, because it is just, an organic response that a person would have. I mean, the most basic thing we have as a human is fight or flight. So we see that exhibited in this person where it's like, you know, I have to protect my kin, which is best. Now, obviously he stood there and he thought about it for a moment, and you couldn't at least be like, well, okay, Ellie's already up here ready to help. I'm sitting here thinking about this. Maybe I could think about it with my hand out. And then if it's getting too much, I'm going to drop him. Like, at least go the distance. Because it was so clear when they met that Joel was outside of his comfort zone being with these two people. And he went out on a limb, and now, like, you're slapping him in the face again. But the thing that bothers me is not that he made that. Because absolutely, since second one that you meet them, like, Sam is his priority. Like, Henry is there to take care of Sam. And like Casey said, his life means nothing in comparison. But the fact that when he sees Joel again, he's like, everything is fine. That's not okay. Like, the fight or flight, that is obviously a conflict. Acting like it didn't just happen, boy, you messed up.
I mean,
he didn't, though.
He did. When he saw him, he's like, oh, it's okay, you're here now.
Well, I know, and they fought, and he was mad, but he kind of got over it. Like, Joel understood, I think.
I know.
Because I think Joel would do the same thing.
Yeah.
But like Joel got over it, but it shouldn't have been like, oh, hey, you're here now. It should have been like, I'm really sorry I had to do that for Sam. Like,
that's true. I think they
but
wanted to.
But that's the cool thing. He's not sorry. Because he would have done it again because Sam's his priority.
And he says that. Like, that's why he tells Joel, you know, like, if it were you, you know, what would you have done?
Right.
You know, and I mean, like, Henry knows that Joel isn't going to do anything, you know, and he knows he probably deserves that punch, but...
Right.
I guess
all I'm saying is, if it's you in that situation next time, maybe open with that line.
Hey, I'm really sorry about that, but no, you're here now. It's all good.
But then, like, so the cool thing about, I think, Henry and Sam appearing is a few things. We get to see Ellie bond with another, what is essentially a child. I know they're like teenagers or young teens, but they are children. You know, their development is kind of stunted because they were thrown into these situations. They never got to be kids. And we see Sam in the toy shop, and what's the one thing he wants is that little action figure.
Right.
And like, even though there are like these zombie-like creatures and people hunting them down with a tank with a dead person tied to the front, he still wants his action figure. So we get to see Ellie bond with someone so quickly, which is cool because you'd think in this situation so isolated, they'd miss out on a lot of social opportunities. They wouldn't grow socially. So it was really cool to see that, you know, Ellie is such a unique character that she could open and make Sam feel more comfortable around these strangers, but also they got to be kids, which is really cool.
Right.
So as good as Ellie and Sam are, you also have a roller coaster with Joel and Henry, because Joel's standoffish against Henry, and then Henry's like, I can show you how to get out of here, and then you're good, and then Henry betrays you, and Joel punches him in the face, and then you're not good. And then you're like, okay, now we're square again. Let's go into these sewers, and then you get split, Henry and Ellie, and Joel and Sam. So it's like, are we going to be good again? Can I trust Henry? Or
we have to be now, though. That was the thing.
Is Ellie strong enough to stand on her own? So I think it was a great choice by the writers to make it so you never have that definitive stance on Henry, which I think is a really, really, really awesome choice that they made.
I agree. Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing, though, I think is cool when Henry and Ellie go off is that as much as you think Henry is taking care of Ellie, Ellie's clearly taking care of Henry. She can stand on her own, and you can see that from the brief glimpses you get between like the security doors, and you can hear them like through the vents and stuff. But it's very clear that Sam has been like sheltered, because I feel like Joel has to do a lot for Sam.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nuts how hardened Ellie has become. I mean, in this world, I think that's why everybody loves her so much, or at least one of the aspects of why they love her so much, because she can handle herself in any situation. And well, actually, I'm gonna talk a little bit, I guess, about stuff we'll talk about in the future, but just a very brief mention. It's funny that she handles herself so well, and she seems so capable by herself, because she tells Sam at some point that, when they're talking about what they're afraid of, she says she's afraid of being alone.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in the game, she is alone, and she still handles herself. Like, Ellie blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important for me when I'm playing a game or watching a show or anything. Character development, above all else, is like really key for me. And in such a small time, not only do we see a lot of character development in Ellie, but her background is also mysterious enough that as we learn these little tidbits, we see even more so how she grew from before you met her, even to the point when you did meet her. So I think that is a phenomenal job of storytelling. I think Ellie is the most complex and most rewarding part of this game. But I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah.
But I mean, as we come to a close on Sam and Henry, Casey, I know last time you said something about the zombie movie tropes. Do you think we fell into a trope here? What are your thoughts on? And why don't you tell us what happened to Sam and Henry?
Well, yeah, we fell into tropes. This is another hiding the bite that happened hours ago or days ago, and you have a scene and they bond, and then they come out and oh no, he turned. That part I didn't enjoy, but the part after that where you could see Henry's internal struggle of Joel's fault, but he's gone, so I don't want to be here, without even taking any anger out on Joel. That I enjoyed.
So, to be a little more specific, Sam was bitten during the sniper part. A few hours later, when you're actually at a safe point and you're resting, Ellie finds that Sam has turned and he starts attacking her and barges into the room with Henry and Joel, at which point Joel picks up his gun to shoot Sam, but Henry points his gun at Joel to prevent him, and then ultimately is the one to pull the trigger and kill his brother. And then we immediately see Henry have this internal argument: is life worth continuing now that I've lost the only part of me I had to live for? And then he ultimately decides to take his own life, which I think was insanely powerful. But I'm happy you just mentioned his anger at Joel, Casey. Do you guys think that even though Henry decided to take his own life, did he pin that on Joel and just not see it as like worth taking Joel down with him? Or what are your thoughts?
I was thinking about that. I still haven't fully. I don't think so. I think at the end, I think he knew what had happened, because he seems like the reactionary type where if he really thought Joel would have had it or had something to do with it, he would have reacted. So I think he might have said it in anger and an emotion, and then just took his own life, knowing. I thought about that for a while. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's. I don't know. I don't think he was holding Joel completely responsible. I mean, it's hard because he points the gun at Joel for I don't know how many seconds before he turns the gun on himself. But, I'm trying to think if I were in that situation. My thought, in a situation completely removed from that would be, someday I'm probably going to get bitten or infected. Someday my son is probably going to get bitten or infected. It's just how it is. And I should have that thought every day. Otherwise, I'm going to live in such fear, and I'm going to be immobile. I won't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would be really upset with Henry if he was holding that against Joel, like for being responsible.
And I think the biggest caveat to that, and I did think, I knew, because I am through the eyes of Joel almost, like, it's not his fault. But what you also have to understand about Henry is that, he's immediately experiencing shock and grief. And every emotion he has is hitting him at the same time.
Right.
Like the force that he had to continue in this world is like now gone by his own hands. And it's like, is there anything I could have done? So I could see, as a person in shock and experiencing all these emotions, how easy it is to take it out on someone else. So even though Henry ultimately decided to take his own life, it does show a lot of restraint to not just like let that anger get to him and take it out on Joel when it was so easy to do so.
Yeah, and maybe I'm getting too deep in thought here, but maybe could be something as he is angry at Joel, but killing him would put Ellie in the situation that he is in himself, of being alone and not having the force that she's living for there. I mean, that might be too deep in that short amount of time.
No, I mean, even that thought process, I think, adds a lot of depth to Henry's character that we've only glimpsed at with like what we consider betrayals, because we see it through Joel's perspective, but aren't necessarily, because it's just a person doing what's best for their brother, like to survive in this, because he never got a childhood. And I think also the scene right before where Ellie, it turns out she stole that toy and gave it to Sam, and then he immediately like throws it on the ground. He doesn't want it anymore, and that's when we see the bite. He had to like mature in seconds, and he was so sheltered in this wasteland. And then like when he like finally matures, it's too late. So I think there's so much complexity to these characters. It was really cool to, I guess the best word is like, get to spend the time with them. And I'm not upset that it was only momentary. I think we learned enough about them and had a really, really good arc to tell, but I don't know. I think they're amazingly complex characters.
They were a good add to the story.
Yeah.
I want to ask real quick. I want to ask did you guys see it coming? Was it obvious enough for you guys? I mean, like, let's say before Sam throws the toy that he so badly wanted before, did you guys know what happened just based on, like, you know, this discussion that Ellie and he were having?
If I had sat and thought about it, maybe, but I didn't at the time, no.
No.
Like, it ticked the box of every, like, sequence for this day, but it didn't occur to me playing, no.
Okay. So it was a total surprise, yeah.
I felt like Casey for a second because he got the toy and then he throws it down, and I was like, oh,
then
man.
I knew.
Well, like, when he first threw it down, I was like, oh, cool, we're getting some character progression from Sam, but where is all this animosity coming from? Oh, there's the bite. Like, it was, like, immediate. So I was, like, super happy when he threw it down, not because he was changing for the better or worse. I was just happy to see a change, and then, like, there was the bite. And then I felt like Casey, like, this is a trope.
Yeah, then you see the bite, and then you're like, everything before this is just a cliche.
Right, because my thought from that point was, like, does Henry put him down then? And, like, immediately when Henry put him down, does Henry shoot himself then?
Yep.
But still, the way, even though those things happened, just the way they went about them, I felt like was a really authentic human experience. People grieving, going through all those emotions. It was really genuine for how I think a person would act in that situation.
It can't be a trope if we get all the discussion out of it, I don't think.
Right.
So maybe, like maybe the thing that happened, but we can actually discuss the emotions in the different ways. So it was good. It was a good ad. Maybe a little cliche or whatever, but it worked. They do it well. We'll say that.
I mean, do you guys think that same depth is there, or am I just going like full English teacher on this?
No, this is one. Yeah, this is a big depth. Like
I
have a page of notes here, and a lot of that is Sam and Henry's little interaction here.
Yeah. So okay, since you have your notes, anything else to add on Sam and Henry?
My main one was just Ellie's interaction with the toy and like how he wanted, and her like how she can't comprehend how this is important.
See, and it's also really important that you said that, because you're right. She can't comprehend why the toy's important, but she's still able to appreciate it.
Yes.
So I think that's also really cool about Ellie, is that even that she's seeing deformed people attack her, she still has empathy. I think there's so many dimensions to her character. I think she's almost a fully fleshed out person. And I think that's so spectacular about her. And that's what I really like about her interactions with Sam.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And you see it later with the journal. Where was it? At Tom's fort or whatever?
Right.
They found it. They found
she
the
goes
journal.
Off to the ranch.
Yeah. And she found, like, oh, this was their problems then? It's like, yeah, those are really the problems.
Yeah, the little girl writing about how she was going to dress. And she's like, is this what girls used to think of?
Yeah. Or like when they talked about football and he was trying to explain to her.
Oh, I love that.
About football. It's like, what do you mean they got to get 10 yards or first down? Whatever they were trying to.
Yeah, when you get a first down at 10 yards again. Like, weren't we just
on
third down? Yeah.
What is this? This is fun. And she just couldn't comprehend. That was cool.
Yeah, that was also special because, I mean, I think we're ready to move on from Sam and Henry, unless, Adam, you have any thoughts?
We're about to get into the good part.
No, I'm good. I'm good on that, yeah. Let's move
So,
on.
after Sam and Henry, we start to head out to Wyoming. Am I correct?
I think so.
Yeah, and it's the fall. We get a horse. We depart for Wyoming to see Tommy.
Tom.
Yeah, who's Joel's brother. And in that, I think this is when we see the biggest relationship like form between Joel and Ellie. I think this is the pivotal point in their relationship, because everything before this has been Joel putting up a wall, and now, like you said, when they're walking to the campus on the horse, you hear them talking about football and stuff like that.
Well, even before that, when she brings up Sarah, that was like all the shivers. When she brought up Sarah and how
Oh, okay, so yeah, before that, they're in Wyoming. They're looking for Tommy, and they come across a power plant. And they're like, "We're just gonna pass through this power plant, but it's guarded." And then we find out the person leading the charge in this self-contained settlement is Tommy and his new wife, Joel's sister-in-law, whose name I forget.
I can't remember either.
Oh,
she wasn't that cool.
That escapes me too.
Yeah. Can't be that good, right?
So yeah, you find out a little bit, because it was hinted at, like, what happened between Joel and Tommy, that he doesn't want to see him again. He joined the Fireflies, and that's all we know. We get a little bit more of that backstory, and we find out what Tommy's been up to. He's been trying to restore power in this power plant, as well as create a self-sustaining society of families that can live within this apocalypse. And they're really, really lofty goals, but you do try to, at this point, as Joel, kind of pawn Ellie off, and she's very much resistant to that. So I don't know, what were your thoughts when you kind of pieced together that Joel doesn't really want Ellie around, or he doesn't think he's capable of taking the rest of the way?
I thought it was, I thought, I was honestly, I was really disappointed in that kind of decision. I mean, I think he doesn't understand how much he actually needs Ellie. Like I said earlier, how many times did Ellie save Joel's life? And okay, of course, maybe Joel would not have been in some of those circumstances if it had not been for Ellie. But still, I mean, the fact is, they were in those circumstances. Ellie has saved his life so many times. I mean, he'd be lying to himself point blank if he denied the relationship that they developed. And it just came across so harsh when he just laid it out and, told her that, like, you're going to be better off with Tommy. And, like, I can only imagine he was trying to convince himself as much as he was trying to convince her. Because if he truly, like, felt that he, like that there was nothing there between the two of them, and that, they're better off separate and all this stuff, like, I don't know, it would be BS to me. I wouldn't, I think Joel was trying to convince both himself and Ellie, at that point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, what do you think?
I agree. It was infuriating. I just thought, like, we built this relationship. They're getting closer. He's protecting her. He's becoming this father figure, and then boom, let me just get rid of her. Just seemed forced, not forced, but sudden. Like there's nothing leading up to this. It was like, oh, we're all good. We're gonna get you there. I got this. I see my brother. I'm giving you up.
Yeah.
I was like, this is. I don't know. It's like nuts. Trying to force conflict when we did, or force a turn in the story. I don't know. It just made me mad. But I mean, and it was quickly remedied. Like, he finds her again, and then it's like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, not really.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, yeah, we're good. But well,
it
first
takes
of all,
some time.
Maria is the name of Tommy's wife.
There we go.
Maria.
Yeah, not important, right?
Well, during that one scene, important. Like, I think she. So yeah, there's the scene where Tommy and Maria are arguing. You know, and Tommy's telling her that he's gotta do this for his brother, and yeah, that's like, I don't know. That was I like that scene actually, because you can see like Ellie's asking Joel like, "What's that about? Is that about me?" And Joel's like, "Yeah, we'll talk about it later. And Ellie just sees like, you know, how much damage has she done, and how many people around her have died already. You know, and she sees this conflict going on between two people she doesn't even know, and she's like, you know what? I'm causing all this trouble. I need to get out of here. Like I'm the problem. You know. Yeah. I like that scene.
Yeah, and I think that's well put. Because this part of the game is the part I hate, but also the part I love. Because I hate that this conflict is there altogether. It's Joel being kind of a D, but it's like at the same time, the way everyone acts is perfect, right? Tommy is a character who you could tell by the fact that he joined the Fireflies and then saw when the Fireflies weren't doing what he believed to be right, he gathered this coalition of families to make a self-sustaining community. He has a sense of justice and he knows what's right. And ultimately he recognized how important Ellie is and takes on that mantle. So even though it goes against like the one person that he's committed his life to, even after the world has ended, he knows that this is what's right and he's going to do it, not necessarily for his brother, but for the rest of humanity. So I think that is a huge deal. Right. And I think that kind of even gets swept under the rug a little bit by this conflict. But then you also have Joel, who has done everything to resist making this, you know, Sarah Mark 2.0. Like, not getting attached to this person. He does everything he can to resist this relationship with Ellie. And then ultimately, like, he's old, he's tired, he's been killing people since this happened, and he's just done with it. And he, you know, finds Tommy, who he can trust more than anything, because Joel doesn't trust people. And he asks him to do this. So doing that is going out on a limb. And you can tell how resistant he is to it, because even Tommy's like, oh, I saved this picture of Sarah. I know how important it is to you. And he rejects it just to say, I'm not getting attached to another one. So you have that perspective. And even though I hate his decision, I understand with it and even agree with it as far as his character goes. And then you have Ellie, who's the biggest cog in this machine here, who, like you just said, and Adam, I think you phrased that really well, seeing her purpose in life tearing all these people apart, and also every person she's ever known has dumped her off on another person or gone away or sacrificed themselves for her, and she just wants somebody to be there with her, not for her. And she thought she had it in Joel, and even though she also tried to not get attached to him because she felt that coming off of him, it's hard to not be offended when somebody wants to dump you on the side of the road and let somebody else take care of your problems.
Right.
So she reacted appropriately, and as I think a teenage girl would that is confident in their own abilities, and, you know, like took a horse and ran away. And I think, as much as I hate this part of the story, and I'm like, ugh, why do I have to do this? It's also like, this is perfect. Again, this is how humans act, and it sucks because humans suck, but it's also awesome because they captured how much humans suck.
It set up the good scene between Joel and Ellie, whether she said, didn't want someone else to leave me.
Right.
That was one of the most, like, shiver-inducing. It's like, like goosebumps.
Yeah.
And it's also important because now we are in the, West Coast. We are in really rural areas. It's not densely populated like the cities were, so there aren't really a high population of infected. We're dealing with kind of like wasteland scavengers now. So it's more intelligent enemies and people that are actively doing other people harm because sometimes, they want more than the kill. So
it goes away from the zombies and the clickers and all that and more into the actual human interactions and those type of fighting. Like the true enemy is the other people.
Right. Yeah, because what does this game revolve around?
Yeah. Relations. Because you can combat the clickers. You know how to do that. You could throw something and get them out of here. You know how to combat the fast ones and the slow ones.
Yeah.
But the randomness of the humans is the real enemy.
And that's what I think is really cool about going to this phase in the game. And also it helped me because I was less scared.
I forgot about that. I forgot you were terrified of that.
Oh, that's funny because I never stopped.
Oh my
this
God.
guy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Did you enjoy this section of the game then? Was this one of your favorite in terms of gameplay? One of your favorite parts?
Very much so. Now I know, like, I'm facing people and, I know what to expect from people, especially like black and white bad people in video games. But then also you have really, really phenomenal scenes on horseback with all the scenery of the West, like in these like really beautiful rural areas. And like my guess last time in Pegged, this isn't the most groundbreaking game on the PS4, so it doesn't look spectacular in remastered, but I kind of tried to put myself in the position, what if I was playing this on the PS3, and I could really respect how beautiful these landscapes were. So there was a lot of atmosphere at this point in the game, and I started to relax a little bit more when I was playing it, and it let me enjoy it a little bit more than I was the rest of the game.
A little bit more than easy mode.
Oh, I was on easy mode. Do not fret. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also just agree. I mean, the game looks gorgeous all around. I still think even on the PS4, it looks phenomenal. I think maybe I'm partial because I played it on the PS3, and at the time I was just like, oh, yep, I'm glad I sprung for this one, and bought into the hype because it's a gorgeous game.
Absolutely. And you can tell when you're playing it what parts were upscaled for the PS4 and what parts stayed for the PS3, because there are cutscenes that visibly changed, like the facial tracking, and you could see, okay, this was meant for 60 FPS, where the other was 30. So you could tell what part was for PS4 and when it switched back to PS3, but I never thought it was jarring, and I could always appreciate what this game did for the PlayStation 3.
Definitely. I mean, this thing pushed it to its limits.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was the perfect. It was towards the end of it was like right before the PS4 came out, wasn't it?
The PS3's life cycle was like essentially over, and then this game
revived it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get a lot more of Joel and Ellie at this point, and I think now is a good time to talk about their relationship and then Ellie's lone wolf segment. And in this, I'd like to talk about the DLC, but we're talking more about them getting closer here because Joel has a lot to make up for at this point. But I don't know. Let's just give me your thoughts on throughout the game, not just at this one point, how you think and what you appreciated about Joel and Ellie's relationship, or what you didn't appreciate, like how it evolved.
Yeah, I guess I can take a stab at it first. I think, I don't know. I think from, I mean, especially remembering more from the beginning sections from replaying more of the beginning again this time, I think their relationship is one of the key parts to this game that made me excited about this game. uh, because I wanted Joel to have another daughter figure in his life again. Like that first scene when his daughter dies is so tragic, and like like the whole time I'm thinking, okay, here's Ellie, like this is it, this is the daughter that he can now be with, that he like unfortunately lost before, and so their relationship together, I thought it was like, again, it was just like a key in this game for me. It was something something huge, and I love, I feel like I love absolutely everything about Ellie. I don't think she does anything where I'm really like, there are parts where I hate Joel, like,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people hate Joel at certain parts, but I don't remember a single part where I hated Ellie or where I was angry at Ellie, let's say, you know? And I think one of my favorite scenes that I remember is when it's earlier on, and the interaction between Joel and Ellie when Ellie took a porn magazine from Bill's place. And they're in the truck together, and she opens up the magazine, and she's like, "Woohoo! What do we have here?" She's like turning it sideways, the whole, typical, uh, and I don't know, that it was funny because it seemed like this is what. I mean, not exactly. Like so a father wouldn't be dealing with this in real life. Like your daughter probably doesn't have a porn magazine. Maybe your son, but it just seemed, it was like, all right, this is something that would happen to a father during his, teenage years. And it was cool seeing it through this perspective of, he didn't say, give me that, and like steal it away from her. It's in this perspective of the post-apocalyptic world where there's a lot of stuff that really, really matters. And a teenager seeing a naked body doesn't really matter anymore, Yeah. So it was cool seeing that. It was like they kind of just talked about it. And I thought it was like, it was cool seeing that interaction between them. And maybe it was also because, like, Ellie's not exactly his daughter. Or maybe it's because of this post-apocalyptic, perspective kind of a deal that Joel seems more, let's call it like relaxed about parenting Ellie. And I kind of like that. I thought that was cool. So yeah, I guess that's one interaction I really enjoyed between them. And I think another part, yeah, so sorry, I'm looking at my own notes here that I wrote down, but also earlier in the game, when Ellie saves Joel in the hotel from being drowned by shooting somebody for the first time. I kind of
we see.
Oh, very true, very true. That we see. That's very true. That's one of those moments where I was very angry at Joel. But I think I like that. I guess the one little interaction that I really liked out of all of that at some point was, in the end, that Joel actually admits that, okay, like, you did the right thing back there. He never actually says thank you or I'm sorry, but but I don't know. I really enjoyed that part, and I thought, like, Ellie, like, you go, girl. You're doing everything right. Don't worry, I don't know. There are a lot of different things I like about the developments between Joel and Ellie.
Right.
And yeah, I guess maybe that's all I can say about that. So, Casey, what are you thinking?
All right. Trying to formulate it in my head because I got a lot. But I guess first, like the first scene, you see Joel's not this lovey-dovey, everything's great father. He's a good, I'm not saying he's a bad father. It's just matter-of-fact, strict, but joking and fun father. That's how I viewed him with Sarah. And then she dies, and these walls just enclose him. Like, he's just this brick, hardcore man at this point. And just to see Ellie slowly strip those away throughout the story is just awesome. And then at the end, you see him become this joking and fun person that you knew he was before. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little harder wear and tear, whatever, but just to see the walls strip off and him to actually open up to hers, that was awesome. Because you guys went to Ellie as far as your favorite. Joel and his change from this hard guy to accepting her as almost his daughter was my favorite part.
That's cool.
So I see Joel is by far my favorite character. Because as a father, Ellie annoys the hell out of me. Like, just listen to him. He's telling you what to do. He knows what's best for you. But that's coming from
hilarious, yeah.
Because I would, like, if my kids did that, I'd be like, oh, listen to me. So she actually annoyed me on the things that you guys find, oh, that's great that she took that stand. I'm not, like, annoyed, like, I don't like you as a character, but right. He knows what he's doing kind of a thing. And maybe he didn't fully, but as a father, like, mine said, like, just listen to me.
See, maybe that traps you in that mindset, man. Would you have...
Maybe.
If Ellie didn't jump off that bridge, you know... I'm just saying.
But see, I agree. But as a father figure, and he's a father figure at this point, you don't tell your kid to jump off a bridge. Yeah. you find another way.
You ask them,
like,
you ask them if they would jump off a bridge if their friends were jumping off a bridge. Yeah. That's what you do as a parent. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying if I ran up with Ellie, let's try to find this other way, but she jumps. So, all right, you're mad at her, but you have to jump and save her.
Yeah.
And that shows how much he cared for her.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what made that whole him leaving her thing just made me that much worse. But that's my favorite part of the whole thing, is seeing Joel start as a father, become this hardened person, and get it stripped away where he took a full circle back to being a father. That's my favorite part of the story.
Now, just like to get your input on this, I mean, you talking about, jumping because he cared for her. Do you think that there's a possibility that the reason he jumped is his obligation to Tess?
At that point, no.
Because, I mean, it's still in Pittsburgh. It's still relatively soon in the game. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking you to...
I don't think he would have just done it for Tess. Because if he didn't have any feelings for her, I think he would have left her. So I think he already had the feelings for her and didn't maybe not show it or know it at the time, but I think he jumped for Ellie.
I think he also jumped for himself. I mean, he's probably running through the options of, all right, what's the least likely to kill me? And, I mean, he sees, all right, so option one, I stay up here and I'm completely alone. Option two,
with a tank.
I can... I mean, yeah, to defend myself completely alone with nobody else to help me defend, myself. But, option two is, jump down there where there's a little girl who I can maybe save, and that I should, at this point, really care about, at least to some degree. I don't know. And also, maybe, I don't know if he knew that she was alive after jumping or whatever, but I just assumed that he also did it to save himself a little bit.
I don't know. He jumped in looking for her. Like, as soon as he got in, didn't he start immediately searching for her? Like, that, he wasn't there for himself, I don't think.
Yeah, but I figure once you get there, might as well knock it out.
Sure, yes.
But
he didn't jump in and try to get to safety and then find her. He jumped in. Right. And try to find her and then get them both to safety.
And got beat up in the process. So clearly his intention was to help her.
That's true.
My thought is this on Joel. I think point blank, he's not a good person. And I think as people, what we like to do is see the good in people. So we're given this man with a certain levels of uncertainty. And in the beginning, we see the good that can happen. Him, caring for this daughter. And then that's taken away from him. And we want to believe that he can get there again. Now, I think, depending on the person looking at it, it's easy to say, and I agree with Casey, he did it because he cares about her. And I feel like he was starting to care about her. But I know that there are people out there that want to believe that he didn't. He's just doing this to get this done. And I think... the problem is we should start having guests that are bad people on here so we can get that perspective.
Well, the ending just threw their theory for a loop then.
Yeah, so I think
Right.
my personal belief is that when Joel does these things, I want to believe that there's good in him and he's doing it because of it. But where I ultimately landed on at the end of it is that Joel is a bad person. But we can talk about that in a little bit. But I really think just we as humans want to project goodness onto people. And since this isn't a real person and there's a lot left up for interpretation, we can project that goodness onto them. But I think, and I thought about this a lot. Like, this bothered me. The question at the end was is Joel a good person when I finished this game? And I think I landed on no, Joel is not a good person, despite what we want to see out of it, not what we're actually seeing.
I'm curious to see what you thought
Yeah,
he did
I
that
definitely
made him a
wanna-
bad person.
I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that. So
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about it then.
Cool.
Yeah,
But yes,
let's do it.
we could just talk about Joel and Ellie's relationship for 3 or 4 more episodes, but because it is so complex. But I encourage everyone to just try it out. Even just do what Casey did toward the end of it and watch the video on YouTube of just all the cutscenes together.
I'll link it.
But so I want to talk a little bit about the DLC before we get to the part where Ellie has to go out and provide for Joel while he's essentially comatose.
right.
There's a little bit of between, and the story between that happens is not terribly exciting. It's pretty much Joel falls off the horse, Ellie drags him into a mall, and they're in an abandoned store, and she has him laying somewhere while she looks for antibiotics. That's all that really happens in the story for the DLC. What we get is mostly flashback to the time where Ellie tells you later in the game that when she was originally bitten, she was with someone else, and they decided they were going to ride it out. And I think her words were something along the lines of be all poetic and lose our minds together.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So it tells that story. And what we learn is that Ellie had a best friend named Riley, I think. Yeah, Riley.
Yes.
And Riley had left Ellie for an undisclosed amount of time to join up with the Fireflies, whereas Ellie was actually in training with the military. And since the military is hunting the Fireflies, it's not so good for them to be seen together. But Riley breaks into Ellie's room, and Ellie is so ecstatic to see her that they sneak out under the cover of night into this mall that we have now, I believe, Joel held up in. I'm not 100% sure if it's the same one, but it resembles it. And we get to see their flashback. It's really just them kind of having like a fun day out and avoiding their problems. But, the stuff they need to talk about is, you're a Firefly now. I'm training for the military. Why did you leave me? I feel abandoned. And that's really the first time we get to see somebody abandoning Ellie, which we'll know will happen a lot throughout her life. And what I hate about it, because I love the context going into it, I love seeing Ellie have this attachment with this person that's so important to her life, but ultimately at the end of it, they ship the two of them together. And the only thing I was asking for the whole time was, please don't give Ellie a love interest. Please don't give Ellie a love interest. And at the very end, they do it, and they make him kiss. And I hated it. I hated that I played it. It ruined Ellie for me, because the greatest part of it was that Ellie was a product of this world, and she didn't get a chance to grow up. And I don't care that she would find someone, but the fact that we saw it was so important for Ellie to be defined by finding someone was a little disheartening. I don't know. Ultimately, I'm a little upset that I played the DLC. And I know if Mike was here, I'm sure he'd be telling me the exact opposite, because I think from what he said, it sounded like he really liked it. But I was appreciating it up until the point where they like shipped them together and they had that kiss, and I was like, Ellie is so complex. She didn't deserve to be treated the way she was treated in that DLC. And I know that there was probably a story to tell, and I guess if I gave it enough time where I wasn't upset about it, like having just played it and really thought on it, maybe I would appreciate it. But ultimately, I'm pretty upset that I played that DLC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I never looked into the DLC. I think I need to play it.
Play it because I'm very cynical and I tend to be dramatic about this stuff.
If you think Joel's a bad person, I definitely want to go back and play the DLC from my own perspective.
I want to talk about that.
We'll get there.
Oh yeah.
No, please go back, and if you plan on finishing the game, spectacular. I mean, Casey, I'm like not trying to put you in a hot seat or anything.
I'm not going to finish you.
Okay, because you were there for the story.
Yeah, I'd hate the gameplay. Right. So the story was the only thing keeping me there, and I got that. I'll try to find the cutscenes and stuff for the DLC, though.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so, I don't know. I think before we even get to the end of the game, and then why I think Joel's a bad person, there's one really, really important storyline we find. And this is when Ellie's out on her own, we see her interaction with David and his friend, and we find out that David is the leader of a specific society. But the way we're introduced to it is Ellie is out hunting to gather food for her and Joel. She kills a rabbit and then ultimately starts tracking a deer, an elk. I'm not sure what exactly it was because I don't remember. But she ultimately stalks and kills this animal. And then we see character David, and I don't know if he ever says the guy's name he's with.
His friend. Yeah, I don't think so.
James. Okay. James is hunting with David, and he's kind of his sidekick. And he goes off. They're like, we have a lot of people to feed. What if we took that deer off your hands? And she's like, the only way that's happening is if you have medical supplies. And she doesn't tell him why, but it's safe to assume that she has someone she cares about who is injured. Yeah. And he's like, okay, James, go back to the camp, get penicillin and, all these stitches and stuff that she can do this, and we'll trade. So he goes off, and while he goes off, we get attacked by infected. So you are with David, you fight through this, but the whole time it's clear that Ellie does not trust David. Right. They come back, they make a trade, and then when they make that trade, David reveals to us, fate is a funny thing. We came out here tracking this old man and this girl who killed a few people from our camp, and she sounds a lot like you and this person that, may be injured. And then, it flips the switch that maybe Ellie shouldn't be hanging out with these people. And then, ultimately she runs back to Joel as fast as possible, stitches him up, and then realizes that she's been stalked. So now she has to, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I can only think of the MMO term, kite them away. She gets on the horse and she draws their attention away and has them chase her down to divert attention from Joel. And we have her, stumble into their society, at which point we find out that these people are cannibals and she is captured. Upon her capture, Joel wakes up and then we resume playing as Joel to go rescue Ellie. But I think what happens with Ellie in the meantime is really, honestly, the most horrific and shocking part of the game for me. But I don't know. So talking about action-packed, I mean, Pittsburgh was the peak, but I think this came pretty close to that peak. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't play it, but from what I saw, yeah. It was nonstop getting shot at and fighting people.
I mean, you run away on the horse, and clearly you're an open target. So there's bullets coming everywhere, and you have to swerve. And if you get too close to someone, they'll grab onto your leg, and you have to kick them off. You can't fire when you're on top of the horse. You just are running through this. Ultimately, you end up in this camp, and Ellie gets captured. She is able to free herself from the cell, but they are about to cut her up into tiny little pieces, quote unquote, and it's assumed that they will eventually eat her. She breaks free, and she's chased into this restaurant by David, who is the leader of this, these cannibals, and he's going a little crazy. It's clear that he's stalking around these tables, and he's got a machete, and he's looking for her. and he knocks something over that sets on fire. I think it might be a Molotov, and the building is burning around you, and his only intention still is to kill you. But I think one of the most horrifying parts of it is that when he finally pins you down, you could tell he had other intentions in mind when he pins Ellie down to the ground. And that's where I honestly think is one of the most terrifying parts of the game. Because you grow so attached to Ellie, and then you see someone want to file her. And I think that was one of the most intense parts of the games for me. It got to the point where I was pretty happy when he took a machete to the face. But I think that was one part where I really was starting to have a hard time. I was like, okay, Joel can kick in here in any second because I am over what's about to happen.
Seriously.
Good thing he's a good person, okay?
Yeah.
See?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
It was an intense scene, that whole restaurant scene.
I mean, of all the crazy things that happen in this game, and all the things that want to kill you, and all the tenseness that happens, I think that was maybe the most terrifying part. Is that like you, as an extension of Joel, start to really care about this person, and then you see this start to happen, and that was getting to be too much for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. Like it was another scene kind of thing.
Yeah. Right.
But I didn't. I mean, it wasn't fun to watch, sure.
And the other thing is, during that cutscene, you as Ellie are also struggling. Like you are controlling her, crawling around on the floor, trying to reach for this machete and stuff.
I saw that because the machete was like highlighted, like it would flash at you, like so it looked like you were controlling.
Yeah, you are in control during that cutscene, and that's also what made it harder because then there's a sense of helplessness for you as the player, and it's like, oh, isn't it bad enough that you are like doing this to me, like somebody that I, by extension care about.
It's crazy, yeah. That's definitely something I remember from my first playthrough. That scene when everything's on fire and you're crawling around trying to hide. It's just like, it's unreal. Yeah, I mean, why would this guy, like you put it, no matter that the building is on fire, he's still looking for you. He's not worried about his own life. He's not worried about this place crashing in on him. He has
more than eating you on his mind.
Yeah, that's a pretty. I mean, yeah, I think everything about that section is just. It kind of tests the player, like how much can you take? It's kind of it's unreal.
I think the scariest part of David, too, is that you kind of see him go through his shades of crazy. I mean, you play along him, so Ellie is standoffish, and as a result, you as a player are standoffish from him, and she never fully trusts him, but you do, you're pinned down in a room with him, killing all these infected coming at you, so you trust him enough to continue through this section, and then you see someone that it's like, this isn't my friend, but, maybe they're just another survivor out in this world. Maybe they're not terrible, but, I'm going to go my separate ways from them. So you have a person you can, to an extent, trust or at least cooperate with, and then you see them, like, the layers are coming off, and they're getting, like, crazier and crazier, and their intentions are starting to become, more obvious, and I think that's what's scariest, is that it was just, like, a run-of-the-mill, everyday, quote-unquote, for this situation person.
Yeah.
And then they like twist into this like real savage monster to the point where they like, want to kill and eat you inside a burning building. Like that is their intention. The whole time, like taunting you and provoking you and then trying to do this to you. So I don't know. I think David was honestly the scariest part of this game.
Even scarier than clickers for you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the looming threat of the clickers was, okay, they're going to rip out my jugular. Yeah. But the looming threat of David was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it can't be good. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like a lot of voice actors, but it was Nolan North who does like Solid Snake. No, I think he does Big Boss. I forget. He does some Metal Gear Solid voice acting, and like Nathan Drake. So he's like he's a really talented voice actor. So he helped bring that character alive too,
No way.
which kind of sucks because it's the character I want the least alive.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was. I love that I hated it. Like, it was so good.
Right?
It was the worst part.
Yeah.
It was a good scene. I don't have the same level of hate for it that you do. It was another part of the good story. It wasn't like, oh, this is the worst.
Yeah. But I guess but like Stone's point is that, yeah, they make you. You hate
feel the emotion.
Yeah, you couldn't experience that scene the same not playing it. There's something you get
I'm sure.
from playing it.
Oh, I can. Yeah. I'll agree with that.
The other thing I like about that particular part is that Joel swoops in and saves you almost at the last second. I mean, clearly Ellie did it herself. She took a machete to his face and murdered him. But when the body falls down on top of him, there's Joel to push it aside.
That was my favorite part.
But the cool part about that is you play as Joel getting there. It wasn't one of those corny, here he is to save you at the last second. It's like, well, yeah, he saved you at the last second because I did that. I got him there. Like, he was injured and I overcame the hurdle to help save Ellie. And really, Ellie saved herself, which I think, again, is telling of Ellie. But it's good to know that even after those kind of traumatic events, she needs that support for as much as an individual as she is. So it was super important for Joel to have shown up when he did. And it's really cool that you were the one that got him there.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely a good way to, I think, bring the player into the game. Like, there's definitely a sense of urgency. Like, right. I need to get Joel there or else. Like, and it's more than just somebody's life on the line at this moment. David is a monster.
Not a good person.
Definitely a monster.
And you're in that town, you hear the alarm bells ringing, and like you get close and you hear the fire. And there's really heavy snowfall, so you really can't see very far in front of you. But when you get closer and closer and you see the fire, you're like, that's where I need to go. I need to be there. Like, Ellie is in there.
Yeah.
And then you're flashing between Ellie and Joel and Ellie and Joel. It's really tense.
Yeah.
I like that, how they'd find a good spot to cut to the next one, but they would cut to the next one in the middle of it. They wouldn't finish one scene beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this game had a problem with pacing, but they definitely hit a stride in the third act.
Yeah. I would say so. Going back through a lot of the beginning, actually, so it's funny, actually, I wanted to get my girlfriend into this game. Because
Don't.
No. I told her, I said, so her and I used to religiously watch The Walking Dead until a certain season happened, and then we said no more of this. And I told her, you know what? We should play this game together. It's kind of it'll bring back that feeling of The Walking Dead, but no matter that there are big, events that happen that make you love it or hate it, all in all, it's an amazing game that has an amazing story, and it's just so great. All this stuff. So anyways, I realized starting that up with her again just a couple weeks ago, I was like, of course, the whole beginning happens, and we're both sitting there, like, she's got her head on my shoulder, we're all sad, and then after some time, it was just sneak around and kill some people, sneak around and kill some people, and I was like, oh, come on, hurry up game, she's losing interest, and I'm like, let's get that, So, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It picks up in the latter part of the games, in the latter part of the game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the latter part of the game.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
I was gonna say,
best part.
You can't talk about the end of the game without talking about the exact ending of the game.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to move on? I don't know if you had any notes.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
We find out that the Fireflies have relocated. They're no longer in Wyoming. They've moved to Washington Hospital in, I want to say Seattle. I don't remember exactly where. But we find out their final destination, this hospital, or like St. Mary's or whatever, I forget. This hospital, and we are on the bridge right before it, and we see Ellie is like pretty out of it. She's not interested in anything Joel has to say, and he is joking around. He's having a good time. He's like starting to feel this weight lifted off of him, and I think Ellie understands like the gravity of her purpose here. We get safely into the hospital. We meet up with the Fireflies. We see what's her name? God, why am I so bad with names?
Marlene.
Marlene. We see Marlene again. She's like, "Oh, thanks for bringing her here.
Yeah.
By the way, she isn't gonna live through this operation."
Right.
And I think this is when we see. Well, I think this is when we see Joel at his big crossroads. Does he allow Ellie to be operated on and possibly find a cure for all of humanity, or, is he willing to sacrifice this person?
Yeah.
Actually, is this where you had the turning point of his goodness and badness?
No.
So, is there actually a crossroads? Because I mean, it sounded
so he makes his decision. He makes his decision very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
He made his decision way before.
So
but yeah, he's been struggling with this for a while. I think one of his original thoughts was, this surgery isn't going to be like, I'm going to draw some blood.
Right.
It might be a little bit more invasive than that. And I think he had time to prepare for this. And I think that's another reason that he tried to dump it off on Tommy, because he didn't want to be the one to make that decision.
Yeah.
I don't know if he knew about it that soon.
I don't know. I feel like he had a feeling. But he had some time to prepare for this, and he, in the moment, kind of makes a decision. Ellie and I are getting out of here.
Right.
Yeah. And, yeah. You had something to say?
Yeah, no, it just, for me, it was, actually, I didn't pick up on any notion that Joel would have known, Ellie was going to be basically sacrificed for the good of humanity, like any point earlier in the game. And it seemed to me that just, it was in the moment, because he's talking to, I think, Marlene about it, like, she said, she has some strain of the, how do you say it again, cordyceps, like within her that is non-hostile, and like we just, if we can remove it and then, study it and all this stuff, and then he says, but it goes all over the brain, and then it goes unsaid that, we have to kill Ellie in order for us to be able to start to study this.
I don't think he knew at all.
I'm not sure if he knew, and from my perspective, it looked like, just to finish what I think, it looked like Joel did not know ahead of time, because when he says, but it goes all over the brain, and then, it just, to me, it seemed like in the moment he just found out, oh my God, Ellie has to be killed during this surgery, like for the good of humanity, and it's clear to him that that's not okay, and he's not going to let it happen. So,
yeah, I'm on Adam's side on that one.
I think he had a bit of an inkling, just because, I mean, it's clear he distrusts the Fireflies throughout this. And I think he sees there's a persona they have for, like, we are the good of the people, but really they do some dirty deeds to get there.
Yeah.
So I think he had an inkling. I think he was surprised when they said that, because I don't think he expected Marlene to be the one to say it, because he knows she has a relationship with Ellie.
That's true, yeah. Marlene and Ellie go back further than Joel and Ellie, so yeah.
Right, so I think that's where his surprise came from.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
But he breaks her out, and I love the way they frame this, right? He breaks her out, and as you are coming out of the elevator in the parking garage, you're home free, Marlene is standing there, and she goes to stop you, and she's trying to press the importance of, look, I know you're going to lose her. I hate losing her just as much, if not more than you do, because I've known her since she was born, like best friends with her mother, who I lost too. And we have to do this for the good of humanity. And then we flash to Joel in the car with Ellie waking up next to him. And I think it's cool that we see in bits the flashback to him killing Marlene and, you know, her blood trail, like as she tries to crawl away.
It is, right, yeah.
I love the way that is framed. I think it's really good artistically.
Fully agree.
But yeah. I think, and this bothered me for days. I mean, it still gets to me, like, ultimately what to think. But the very end of it, where Joel chooses to lie to Ellie and tell her, you know, it turns out there were dozens of people that were bitten and immune to it, and they've done tests, and they're just not finding anything. There's just no cure. And I think Ellie's skeptical, and she says, you know, is that true? Are you telling me the truth? And he's like, yes. End of game.
That was great.
So what was upsetting about it? Like the ending was so abrupt, or that Joel lied to Ellie?
I think the biggest thing is that Joel lied to Ellie. We want to believe that...
That's what you do as a father.
Well, see, we want to believe that he's a good guy and he's super attached to Ellie. But I really honestly think a lot of that was selfish. He doesn't want to, like, lose someone else. And if it means that, like, whatever Ellie wants, like, even if she wanted to sacrifice herself, he wouldn't allow that to happen for him. I don't know. This has bothered me nonstop. I've gone back and forth. Like, to me, is Joel a good person? I don't know. I don't think he is.
That's okay. That's interesting.
We're not going to agree on this one.
And that's interesting.
I mean, that's what's great about it.
I understand it because you're saying he did it for him, which is something I did not even consider at all. Like, all I thought about was he loves this person. And he's not going to let them die. Like, of all the things that they have been through, this will not be the thing that is going to kill her. And it won't be something that he has given, quote unquote, given his blessing for by not barging in and preventing it from happening. Yeah, I don't know.
That was my initial thought, right? Like, I think that's what the game wants you to believe. They want you to imprint the best parts of human nature onto Joel because they leave so much up for interpretation. But just his actions throughout it, I think you want to believe that he's growing closer to her and he cares about her. But I think it's that he's never coped with the loss of his daughter. And this is him just filling in the cracks with something else. It's just kind of like almost like a fix for him to have this in place. And if it means he has to lose another one, that's not an option. And I think that's for him. That's not for Ellie.
I want to say, I can kind of understand that, but here's
my thing.
It's been more than 20 years, right? So how
right,
could
but
he
if you
not
don't begin to process your grief, when are you ever going to get over it?
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like I can't even imagine something like losing a child. I'm not obviously. Well, none of us are fathers here besides Casey. But I don't know. I guess maybe I shouldn't talk. I shouldn't say 20 years is enough time because I have literally no comprehension of what's enough. Yeah, that's interesting though. I didn't think about it that way.
And the other thing that gets me, like, and we want, like, I've honestly struggled with, like, what to think on this, but we want to say, like, Joel cares for Ellie, but when did Joel, like, ever, like, really, like, ask what Ellie wanted or anything? What he did was, like, explain, when they bonded, he was explaining stuff to her.
Yeah.
Like, he was satisfying her curiosity, but he never cared enough to delve into her life. You know, she says things like, you're just the next person to abandon me. He's never like, oh, I'll stick around, or, you know, who abandoned you before, or like something like that.
That's not him, though.
I know that it's not.
It wasn't him with Sarah. It wasn't him.
Right. I get that it isn't him, but also, like, when you care about somebody, you don't always act like yourself. you know? Like sometimes what they want is more important than what you want. And I feel like a lot of the decisions he made, he didn't do it because what Ellie wants, you know, he's willing to put what he
did
wants
it what
aside.
was best for her. What was best for her in the long run.
I don't know, because she didn't get that decision. What if she wanted that? I'm not saying that what he did was necessarily wrong. I'm saying his motivation behind doing it, I challenge as being good.
But sometimes as a father figure, you don't let them have the decision. You do what's best for them.
Right. And
that's Joel's and that's Joel's standpoint. I think he cared about her way more than even the story could tell about it.
I don't know.
And you could see that throughout the thing with every wall he had getting broken down, him actually opening up to her, and every decision he made to save her at the end.
Right. There's no doubting that in order to save her, he had to go through hell to do it.
I don't know.
But in my mind, there's nothing that says he's doing that for her any more than he could have been doing that for himself. And I'm not saying definitively this is the case. I'm just saying, like, I went back and forth on it. I thought about it a lot, and that's where I landed. And I'm definitely open to it not being the case, but I feel like just like us as humans want to put the best case on someone, and we're kind of overlooking all the details for the sake of the narrative we want to create, not the one that's necessarily there.
I mean, you're probably right. That has to factor in at least a little bit. You know, that he doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to go through that again.
Sure, because he felt like he failed the first time.
And it's not
letting
even
her
that
die.
He failed. Like that was totally out of the blue. The people that were supposed to protect them.
Sure. But as himself, he feels.
Right.
He feels responsible.
I don't know. I feel like the grief is there. We never really. It's open for interpretation whether or not he got any closure on it. You know, I think a big hint we have is the fact that he even rejects to keep her picture until Ellie gives it to him. But at that point, I think it was like...
Or maybe that's saying he is past that. Maybe that's the symbol they were trying to go, I don't need that picture.
Actually, no. You know what?
I've accepted that, and I've moved on. Not moved on, but I'm continuing this story with Ellie.
I just remembered... I think Stone is right. I think... Because I'm just now remembering the scene where
I'll disagree. Let's go. I'm ready.
I'm just now remembering the scene where Joel and Ellie meet back up after Ellie's ran. I think it's right after she ran away, and at some point they're arguing, and she brings up Sarah, and she tells him, "I'm not her," and he's like, he was telling her like, "You're treading on mighty thin ice here," and he's like, you're right, you're not her, and like, it's not.
You'll never be my daughter.
Yeah. He says, "It's oh god,
yes.
Why am I not remembering?"
That's what he said.
Yeah. So
I have it noted.
It's like I feel like in that scene you can tell if he was completely past that point, he would have handled it much differently. He would have his tone would have been much different. But I remember the tone in there. You could definitely tell.
But that scene was before he sent her on. Like that's when he tried to give her to Tom.
Right.
He was in that mindset of trying to pawn her off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so he was still in the trying to give her to Tom.
Yeah, I mean, and the time that you're talking about right now, Adam, and the end of the game, there's still about a 3-month period between that. Okay. So yeah, Casey, could be right. There could be that change of heart between that time.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with that. Joel cares that much about her.
Yeah,
I love that we can even have the discussion because everything about this game was framed pretty perfectly. This game to me deserves all the praise that it got.
And then some.
The question is though, I was on board for 2 because I know it's a lot more centered around Ellie. But after playing that DLC, I don't know if I want it right now.
No. Did that ruin it? That ruined it for you.
I'm going to wait. I really... It did. And here's the thing. Like, I want to encourage people, like, play the DLC to form your own opinion. But what if what happened to me happens to you? I hope that people aren't as cynical and dramatic as I am, so they won't feel exactly the same. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to encourage people to play it, but at the same time, I want to be a cautionary tale.
Might as well play it now when it's free and you have the game already, then buy the $60 game and find out.
Oh, right. I mean the DLC.
That's what I meant. You have the DLC with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
So you might as well find out that spoiler before you...
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm definitely... Yeah, I need to go back and play the DLC. I'm very much looking forward to number 2. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I definitely projected the best. I like Stone was saying, we tend to find the best in people, and I think I did that all throughout. So, I don't know. I don't think Joel was a bad person. I think he did a lot of the things that I would have done along the way, and I'm glad that he didn't let Ellie die for something that wasn't even a sure thing. I'm trying to remember. I actually want to go back. I apologize. I should have done this in preparation for the podcast, but I want to go back and listen to those lab notes because they're talking about the cell cultures from different, I guess, patients or subjects. And I want to see. There's a lot of the biological terms in there that I wasn't familiar with. I want to go back and see what they're actually talking about, because I wonder, even if they allowed Joel allowed, or anybody allowed Ellie to undergo the surgery, what would have been the chances that they establish a cure from this? And would they just kill the host, for a long shot?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still a long shot.
And maybe an ethical question since we're talking about this part. You think, nowadays there are model organisms to study everything from vertebrates to invertebrates. You can you can study a chick embryo developing, mouse embryo, a fish embryo, to try to translate what happens in humans, for example. This is actually something we do in my lab. I'm more on the engineering side of it, less the biological side of it. But okay, so we don't test with humans for a particular reason. Okay, now we're all in a zombie apocalypse. You can die any single day. The entire fate of the world, everything's screwed. There's no hope whatsoever besides this one person. This one person, there may be a chance. What do you ethically do now? Even if you think you have a great chance at finding a cure, or a very small chance, you don't know what the odds are. Do you go for it based on the fact that you would have to kill a human being?
Oh yeah, I go for it.
You go for it?
Well, I thought about
You're
that.
You're taking out the relationship, though.
Exactly.
Well,
you have
I
to
thought
remove
about
yourself
that.
from the relationship, I would say. And what is your decision?
But you can.
So
But you can't.
Well, so no, just think about the scientists that had to operate, that died, by the way. Joel killed
Sure.
for only wanting the betterment of mankind. Yeah, I'm sure that kept him up at night. In fact, you see the notes before you get to the final hospital when you're attacked by the cannibals, and you see the lead scientist, and he talks about all the terrible things they've had to do, and they're coming no closer to the cure. So he sits in a room and just dies. That's how he ends his life, because he knows that they're not getting any closer to the cure. And he says something along the lines of, "This is worthless. They're never going to find a cure. I'd rather sit here and die." Something like that. So I think ethics went out the door when people's faces started exploding.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I would say...
if you take out all relationships, yes, the sacrifice of one to save multiple and tons of people is better.
I'm wondering how I would feel in terms of hope. I'm imagining throughout this, all these events, there would be many times where I would have so much hope that, this is finally it. This is the thing we have to do, and then it's all better, So I'm wondering, but to be ultimately let down again, to be reminded, oh no, you're actually, everything is just screwed. There's no chance whatsoever. So I'm wondering, in that position, if I would have felt oh, here's the next long shot. It's not going to turn into anything. It's a waste of time, and you got to kill somebody. we might as well not waste time on it and just like go scavenge for food or whatever. Like I wonder if I would be in that mindset, or if I would be okay with it just because it's the world we live in now. I don't know.
But I don't know. I think if there was a 1% chance in this situation without relationships, people would take it.
Yeah, I think that like that's something I think go for a few reasons. One, you've literally dedicated your life to this, so that's a hurdle you have to get over. You get used to rejection, and I think at that point, like, I have to kill this person, but I've really set my expectations pretty low, and it's not the only person I've had to kill. I don't like doing it, but the reason I'm doing it, I think, gives you a greater purpose. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I feel like that's the mindset.
Can I ask a harder question?
Oh, good, please.
Do it.
So add the relationship back in.
Right.
And say there's a 100% chance that you sacrificing this person cures it.
Right, I think
that's the true question, because I know my answer from Joel's point of view, and I would have made the same decision he did.
So it's the Fireflies, right? And Marlene even says, even if I said, so she writes, she doesn't write a note, you can find a tape recorder of Marlene addressing Ellie's mother. And she says, they've asked me, like, your daughter's here. I finally get to see her again. She reminds me so much of you, but she could be the cure for all humanity. They've asked me to go ahead with the surgery, but it's really just a formality. I have no real say in it. She says something like that on the tape recorder.
Right.
And I think with the scenario that you're spelling out, like, do I do this knowing that I have a stake in this person, that I am close to this person? People around you aren't giving you that choice. So
sure,
Ellie's just lucky or unlucky that the person that had a stake in her was Joel and was willing to murder and had the ability to murder all those people to get her back.
Right.
I was asking hypothetically.
Right. And I'm saying, like, with the scenario spelled out as it is, even if I had a relationship with this person, I'm probably locked in a closet while this is going on.
Huh.
Yeah, of course.
If you're Joel, though,
then I'm eating the closet.
I would have done the same thing as Joel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, we could talk about this for another century and a half. So let's do it. I'm just kidding. We have to wrap it up sometime. And God, there is so much discussion. It was really great having all of your perspectives on there.
And they're different, and we could talk without arguing, which is good.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. That's hard to come by sometimes. So
That's very true.
Especially with me. So I'm happy.
Even though you're wrong, and
even though you're
we could talk
point
about
blank
it.
wrong about absolutely everything you thought about this game.
I'm happy it didn't turn into another Dungeon Defenders 2 with Adam here.
Hey, come on now. I placed the traps. I fight some guys. What more do you want?
I still have their recording. We'll have to bring that up.
Yes, I'm still editing it. It's long. I'm still editing it and trying to put it on the YouTube. But
oh, goodness gracious.
It's getting there. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Again.
No, thanks for having us, man.
Seriously, thank you, Stone.
Absolutely.
Should we do
we had them last time. Their links were in the description of the previous episode. I'm going to put it in there again. Please, 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 I encourage you guys, go check out Drinking Souls. It happens every Friday night, and it is a freaking blast. Darkness and Ultra Radicus are alongside them, and they are also a blast. You guys have good chemistry. I really enjoy watching the streams, and
Thanks,
enjoy
man.
pointing out to everyone that Adam smells.
I'm gonna get you back for that, Stone. One day there's gonna be a new insult coming your way. Watch out.
Please try to think of something that I haven't heard throughout all of my school years with the name Stone.
You know what? I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take my time.
Make a marijuana joke.
Oh yeah, that's what.
Bet you hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
But no, it's seriously been a blast. I'm so happy that this game we chose to play with you guys.
Seriously.
I hope that maybe sometime we can have you guys on again.
Love it.
It'd be great, man. Can I say one final thing about this game just to wrap up?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to say, so if you're listening and you never played this game, who are you and what have you been doing with your life? Mostly, the last thing I want to say about this game is The Last of Us is literally a game changer. This game is amazing, and checking it out again on, I was looking for the remastered version on the PlayStation Store, the PlayStation Network Store. It has almost 170,000 reviews, and it's a perfect rating. If you have not played this game, go play it. Done. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
It is good for the story.
Yeah. Well, would you guys like to hear what we're playing next month?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is it?
Mike will be back, and it is another story-heavy game featuring a female protagonist. We're going to be playing Life is Strange.
Ooh,
Nice.
very
Yes.
nice.
What I really like about Life is Strange, because I've never played it, and Mike has never played it, so it's a game that we finally always wanted to play, never got a chance to. And if people want to play along, Episode 1 is free, and it's free on Xbox, it's free on PlayStation, and it's free on Steam. So if you guys want to play along, try out Episode 1, see what you think. And then
I think I downloaded it.
Yeah.
I think I may
Oh
have
yeah,
to.
it was free for PS Plus subscribers a few months ago. I
the
think
whole
so.
thing?
Though I think the whole thing, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
sick.
I believe the whole game.
That's awesome.
So a few people probably have it.
Yeah. And if you missed that opportunity, again, Episode 1 is free. It's a 5-episode, game, and it's really heavily story-driven, and I'm really excited for it. I know Mike is excited as well, and we're going to be back, the two of us. So if you miss Mike now, I don't blame you. I'm not too interesting. But
Good thing we were here.
Right?
Yeah.
It's okay.
My crutches.
The real talent showed up tonight. It's all right.
And speaking of the real talent, before I let you guys go, anything you guys want to plug before you leave?
Not at all. I think you've plugged us enough.
All right, cool.
We are a modest bunch. We just thank you for having us on here. It's been a pleasure for sure. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. The pleasure has been all mine, and I speak for Mike as well. I'm really happy you guys were our first guests. I hope to have you guys back soon, whether it's actual guests, or you guys writing in something for us to read here, or just like recording a voice clip and submitting it. I think it'd be a blast. But
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Would you guys like to close it out?
Yeah.
Sure.
This has been the Forgot to Save podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I've been absent.
And I've been Stone, wrong about Joel, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us, guys. I'll see you.
Thanks, man.